Throughout human history, they have descended from the sky, bearing wisdom and superior technology. Or so it's said. Their ships have apparently been caught on film again and again, though never completely convincingly. And now these devious aliens are snatching citizens of the Earth and doing unspeakable things to them, according to thousands of Americans who claim to have been abducted by UFOs.
They're so ugly. This is terribly intrusive.
People have sperm taken, eggs taken, fetuses implanted in them, removed from them.
Scientists don't take reports of alien abductions seriously because there is no physical evidence, and there is no physical evidence because they don't actually exist.
Are extraterrestrials really coming to Earth and interfering with human affairs, or even interbreeding with us? Examine the most compelling evidence of UFO visitations with believers and skeptics alike.
You can see clearly a shining object, looks metallic.
Much of what people believe about UFOs and alien abductions is cultural. It's psychological. It's not out there, it's in here.
You decide, as science and the supernatural collide in our crowded skies.
Source are approaching from the sky. Radio contact has been attempted but cannot be established. Instructions are to prepare for an attack by an unknown enemy.
Our modern love-hate relationship with unidentified flying objects and their alien pilots has been going on for more than 50 years now. But some people think that aliens have been around far longer than we have, that indeed they've given our evolution the occasional shove in the right direction. How else could the ancients construct, say, the Great Pyramids of Giza, or the giant Nazca lines of Peru, which only make sense from the sky? How is it possible that Iron Age Europeans drew a humanoid in a spacesuit?
These creatures, they have found a way to come to the Earth. They could be more intelligent than we are.
Sure, it's possible that aliens came down and helped the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids. But the problem is there's no evidence for this. The assumption that humans aren't smart enough to have figured this out is frankly insulting.
UFO researchers who call themselves ufologists assign our close encounters with supposed visitors from outer space into 4 categories. There are close encounters of the first kind, where UFOs are seen at close range but leave no physical evidence behind. A startling encounter one afternoon in the skies over Mexico falls into this category. Early afternoon, March 5th, 2004. A Mexican military surveillance aircraft on a routine mission searching for drug smugglers records a sequence of unidentified objects, at one point numbering as many as 11. On the plane's infrared sensing system, the UFOs appear as bright points of light, but show no detail or structure. The airmen frantically search the skies for whatever is apparently flying alongside, but they can see nothing. There's only the infrared signal of something powerfully hot. Air traffic controllers say that they can see nothing unusual on their radar screens. In the end, the plane lands with the crew, air traffic control, and the military apparently clueless as to what has happened. We'll examine this close encounter of the first kind in greater detail later. But first, the other types of encounters. Close encounters of the second kind entail UFO sightings accompanied by physical traces of their visit. Many have argued that the famous crop circle phenomenon falls into this category. People spot eerie balls of light over fields of wheat, and later find crops flattened into spectacular formations. Recently, strange circular formations in grass have been associated with UFO sightings in Mexico. Then, of course, there are the famous close encounters of the third kind. This involves actual contact, often by speaking telepathically to alien beings. At the far end of the spectrum are those who have had close encounters of the fourth kind, also called alien abduction.
When I regained consciousness, I was on a table.
From the first, Hollywood latched on to the idea of big-eyed brutes from beyond doing nasty things to us. But for those who believe they've been through the real thing, it's absolutely terrifying.
They're so ugly, and they're repulsive. And sometimes I wish I could think, oh, gee, it's a dream. You know, this isn't happening, but it is happening. I had several abductions when I was a child. I mean, very young. They happened very young. It starts from almost cradle to grave. That's the way it goes. Once you're in their program, you're in their program forever.
Pam is a patient of Dr. David Jacobs, an associate professor of history at Temple University, a leading proponent of the abduction phenomenon. For more than 30 years, he's worked with so-called abductees, using hypnosis to help them regain buried memories of the experience.
This is a subject that is the fringe of the fringe, and as an academic to study something like this is not a real good career move, shall we say. But one does not have the opportunity to participate in the understanding of a phenomenon of potentially enormous importance very often in one's life.
Jacobs believes that at least 5 million Americans have been abducted by aliens and has heard hundreds of abduction tales, remarkably similar ones.
I'm sleeping. I have a sense that the room is very still. Sometimes there's a crispness in it. I don't know how to describe that, but there's a different feeling in the room. And then the sound starts in my ear with the like that, and it goes on. And then I can see a light, and I see figures.
Subjects also report that they can't move, as if they are paralyzed. The next thing they know, somebody or something comes up to them and has them rise, and often they fly directly through a closed window. Then it's up into a spacecraft, where they join other abductees and await their fate. What happens next is universally ghastly. But before we hear the rest of Pam's horrifying story, a word of caution for those of you who might think you've been abducted and go in search of a therapist who uses hypnosis, guided imagery, etc., to recover buried memories of such events. Be careful what you want to remember.
It's just dangerous. They're screaming in many cases. They're crying. They're rolling on the floor. What emerges in their hypnotic sessions feels intensely real to them.
Dr. Susan Clancy, a psychologist and an expert in memory, has spent 6 years studying UFO abductees. She believes that abduction memories are not recovered in therapy, they're created there.
Every abductee I worked with obtained their memories through hypnosis or what they called guided imagery. I don't know anybody that